Have you ever loved someone so deeply that their presence became part of your very being, only to wake up one day and find them slipping away into silence? No goodbye, no explanation, just space and distance. Most of us would rush to interpret this as rejection, as the death knell of a once beautiful bond. But what if I told you that silence could speak of a deeper kind of love? A love that is so powerful, it activates ancient fears, buried traumas, and defense mechanisms we didn't even know we had? In this video, we'll journey deep into the unconscious mind with Carl Jung as our guide. We'll explore how love, when it reaches the core of who we are, can trigger not only euphoria but also fear, avoidance, and emotional retreat. This is not a simple story of heartbreak. This is a revelation of the hidden language of love. Love beyond logic. Love, in its purest form, defies reason. It's a force that can lift us into states of bliss and drag us into abysses of doubt. For anyone who is truly loved, you know that love isn't always soft. It isn't always kind. Sometimes it confuses. Sometimes it wounds. And most confounding of all sometimes, the people who love us the most are the very ones who walk away. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and pioneer of analytical psychology, dedicated his life to understanding the intricate architecture of the human psyche. Among his most profound teachings was this: the human mind is not a single voice but a chorus of competing instincts, fears, hopes, and memories, some conscious, others buried in the vast terrain of the unconscious. When it comes to love, these unconscious elements are not dormant. On the contrary, love is the spark that sets them ablaze. The two worlds within us. Jung taught that the psyche is divided into two fundamental realms, the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious mind is where we reason, decide, and act deliberately. The unconscious, on the other hand, is a shadowy underworld where repressed desires, unresolved trauma, and forgotten fears reside. We think we know what we want in love. We write lists. We craft ideals. But when love arrives, real love, it doesn't always adhere to our expectations. Instead, it mirrors us. It reflects not just our aspirations, but our insecurities. It reveals not just our joy, but our shame. To love is to be seen, truly seen. And for many people, that level of visibility is terrifying. Love is a mirror of the self. When we fall in love, we enter into a deeply transformative space. The other person becomes more than just a partner. They become a mirror. Through them, we see both the beauty we carry and the wounds we hide. Love, in this sense, becomes a confrontation with ourselves. In the early stages of love, the connection feels euphoric. The masks come off. Vulnerability feels safe. But as the bond deepens, so does the exposure. The closer we become to someone, the more likely it is that unresolved aspects of ourselves will rise to the surface. This is when love stops being comfortable. It starts becoming real. And real love, Jung would argue, demands integration. It demands that we face the parts of ourselves we've exiled. That process isn't just emotional. It's spiritual. It's psychological. And it can be terrifying. The unconscious response, detachment. So what happens when someone begins to pull away? Even as love deepens, most of us interpret withdrawal as a loss of interest. We feel rejected, hurt. But according to Jungian psychology, withdrawal can also be a form of unconscious self-protection. The deeper the connection, the greater the emotional risk. For someone whose inner world is filled with unhealed wounds, abandonment issues, betrayal trauma, control patterns, intimacy can feel threatening. In such cases, the unconscious mind deploys a defense mechanism, detachment. This withdrawal is not necessarily a choice. It's an automatic, protective reaction triggered by fear of vulnerability. Ironically, the closer they feel to you, the more exposed they feel within themselves. And that exposure can be unbearable. So they run, not because they don't love you, but because loving you has awakened a part of them they are not yet ready to face. The illusion of safety in love. Popular culture often paints love as a sanctuary, a place of endless comfort. But Jung reminds us that love, when real, is not always a safe haven. Love can be disruptive. It can shatter illusions and bring long-buried wounds to light. It is in the presence of true love that the unconscious is most activated. We are no longer able to hide behind routines or personas. We are forced to confront ourselves, and not everyone is prepared for that. People who have experienced abandonment may instinctively fear closeness. Those who have lived lives of control may perceive intimacy as a loss of power, and those who equate love with danger may find themselves paralyzed when faced with genuine affection. These inner conflicts don't disappear with time, they surface when love gets real. Fear versus, well, the inner conflict. Here lies the tragedy. The conscious mind wants connection, but the unconscious, driven by fear, resists. And when fear and love collide, fear often wins, at least in the short term. From the outside, the person withdrawing may seem cold, uncaring, or inconsistent, but internally, they're experiencing a war between desire and dread. They want to love. They want to stay. But staying requires them to be vulnerable, to relinquish control, to let someone see their shadow, and that is more frightening than loneliness. The paradox of emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is both a longing and a threat. We crave closeness, yet we fear the dependency it might create. We seek connection, but we're haunted by the possibility of rejection, betrayal, or loss. This leads to paradoxical behavior. The person who loves you deeply may reach out, then withdraw, confess their feelings, then disappear, initiate intimacy, then avoid you. This is not manipulation. This is internal fragmentation. It's the psyche trying to protect itself from perceived danger that isn't you, but what you represent. A mirror, a truth, an unknown. The role of the anima and animus. Jung introduced the concepts of anima and animus, inner feminine and masculine energies present in all of us. In romantic love, these energies often project themselves onto the other. When someone sees you as their ideal, their soul's reflection, the projection becomes powerful. But projections are not stable. When reality fails to match the internal image, disillusionment sets in. The person may begin to distance themselves, not from you, but from the shattered illusion. This is another reason why people withdraw when they love. Not because they stop loving, but because they're forced to recalibrate their understanding of who you are and who they are in the process. Projection and the fear of the self. One of Jung's most powerful teachings is this. What we reject in ourselves, we project onto others. When someone distances themselves in the midst of love, it's often because they see something in you that reminds them of a part of themselves they haven't accepted. Their absence, then, is not a reflection of your worth, but of their inner chaos. Their silence is not a punishment, it's a cry for space, for clarity, for self-preservation. We must begin to understand love not as possession, but as reflection. When someone you love pulls away, it might not be a sign of the end, it might be the beginning of their own psychological journey. And here lies one of the hardest truths I've learned through my own experience. Sometimes the people who love us the most are the ones most afraid of being loved, because being loved exposes them to the one thing they spent their whole lives avoiding, their own heart. The moment someone distances themselves from you, it's instinctive to internalize that withdrawal. Did I do something wrong, you may ask? But as we explored earlier, often this detachment is not about you, it's about the internal conflict the other person is facing. What appears to be rejection on the surface may actually be a profound emotional struggle playing out beneath the consciousness. Carl Jung taught that much of human behavior is driven not by logic or willpower, but by what lies beneath the shadow self, the unconscious mind. And this unconscious mind does not communicate in words or clarity. It speaks in impulses, in reactions, in silence, in withdrawal. The mirror effect of love. True love holds up a mirror. It reflects not only our desires and hopes, but our deepest fears, traumas, and vulnerabilities. When someone falls in love, their defenses lower. And in this raw emotional exposure, the shadow self full of repressed emotions and hidden wounds steps forward. People often assume that love should feel safe. But in Jungian psychology, Safety isn't a guaranteed outcome of love, especially for those with unhealed emotional wounds. Love has the power to reveal what we spent years suppressing. It might bring up childhood abandonment. It may echo the pain of betrayal or rejection. It may even confront the ego, the part of ourselves that wants to remain in control. And so, to protect the fragile psyche, the unconscious may push the person to retreat. This isn't cowardice. It's survival. Jung called this a psychic defense, the unconscious doing whatever can prevent perceived psychological annihilation. It's not that the person doesn't love you. It's that the depth of love threatens to destabilize a part of them they have yet to reconcile with. Fear, dependency, and control. For many, love triggers dependency fears. Suddenly, they are no longer self-contained. They need someone else. That level of need, intimacy, and connection feels overwhelming. In those moments, love is no longer liberating, it becomes frightening. And fear, when left unaddressed, leads to avoidance. You may notice people doing the following: pulling away just after a deep moment of connection, going silent without explanation, becoming emotionally unavailable after previously being open. To the conscious mind, these actions make no sense. But to the unconscious, they are perfectly rational. They're attempts to restore psychological balance, to retreat from what feels too vulnerable. Love triggers the past. One of Jung's core insights is that the present is never just the present. We are constantly projecting old wounds, archetypes, and experiences onto people around us. In love, these projections intensify. That means your partner may not just be seeing you. They may be seeing their mother, their absent father, the person who betrayed in the past, all layered over your real presence. It is a projection, but it feels real to them. When someone pulls away, it's often because their unconscious is reacting to something you don't represent, but they associate with you. And this projection, left unexplored, becomes a source of pain and confusion. Why you shouldn't chase. When someone attaches out of fear, the worst thing you can do is chase. Chasing activates their defense system even more. It confirms to their unconscious that love is suffocating, that their boundaries are not safe. Instead, the healthiest approach is presence without pressure. Give them space. Let the emotional fog settle. If the bond is real, it will draw them back not through force, but through resonance. Authentic love is not about control. It is about allowing the other to navigate their fears without becoming their enemy in the process. As Jung would say, what we resist persists. If we push against someone's emotional boundary, we reinforce the very fear that made them withdraw, the test of distance. Sometimes, distance is not just a defense. It is also a test, often unconscious, of the strength of the bond. Can you still care for me even when I pull away? Will you abandon me like others did? Will our connection survive silence? This is not a healthy or intentional test. It comes from a place of wounding, but understanding it helps you respond with wisdom rather than reaction. It's crucial to remember, those who use distance to test love are often not yet ready for mature, stable relationships. Their internal work is unfinished. The distance reveals not only their fear, but their unreadiness. Love, maturity, and return. The real question is not whether someone comes back. It's whether they return with greater awareness. Will they face their fears instead of fleeing from them? Will they bring back the maturity to communicate rather than hide? Will they stop projecting and start truly seeing? Only when a person does the inner work can love become truly sustainable. Otherwise, the cycle continues. Intimacy followed by fear. Connection followed by withdrawal. Letting go is not losing. Sometimes the person doesn't return. This, too, is part of the journey. Because not all love stories are meant to last. Some come to awaken us, not to stay. The absence of love is not always a failure. Sometimes it's a necessary step in your own evolution. It teaches you to stop looking for answers in someone else's behavior and start asking what that behavior awakens in you. Does their silence trigger your fear of abandonment? Does their distance ignite your anxiety? Does their withdrawal awaken old pain that has nothing to do with them? These questions open a door not only into understanding the other, but understanding yourself. And that is the most powerful form of love there is. Personal reflection, what I've learned. I've seen people disappear just when love felt most real. I've heard silence after nights of vulnerability. I felt the sting of someone retreating without reason. And yet, with time, I began to see that these moments weren't about me. They were about wounds I didn't cause and couldn't heal. My role wasn't to fix or to chase. My role was to grow. And I did. Their absence led me back to myself, to parts one had forgotten, to shadows I hadn't explored. And in that journey, I found a deeper kind of peace. This is what Jung meant when he said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Sometimes love doesn't return, but its impact remains, not as pain, but as transformation. So what now? What do we do when the one who loved us becomes silent? When love feels like distance? When connection becomes absence? That's where we'll go next, into practical wisdom of how to navigate the space love leaves behind, how to grow through it, and how to invite true, conscious relationships moving forward. And now, if you made it this far, perhaps this message was meant for you. Maybe you're not here by accident. Maybe you're someone who once loved deeply, only to be met with silence. Or perhaps you were the one who pulled away when it got too real, too intense, too close. Whichever side of that story you've lived, remember this. Real love is not control. It's not constant contact. It's not desperate pursuit or painful silence. It's the space where growth, freedom, and transformation can happen even through distance. And if someone has left, if they've gone quiet, it doesn't always mean they've stopped loving you. Sometimes, it just means they're at war with themselves, not with you. So here's the truth. The greatest act of love isn't holding tighter. It's the courage to let go, to trust, and to grow whether they return or not. Because true love, if it's real, always finds its way back. And if it doesn't, then maybe it wasn't meant to stay, but to teach. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a love that pulled away right when it felt the strongest? How did it change you? What did it awaken inside? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Below your story might be the one someone else needs to read today. If you found value in this message, if it stirred something in you, gave you clarity, or simply helped you feel seen, then please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the soul of love, healing, and human connection. We're building a community here, not just of viewers, but of seekers. And every like, every comment, every subscribe helps us grow, helps us reach, helps us heal together. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling. And above all, thank you for loving, even when it hurts. We'll see you in the next one.